Welcome. We're really glad you're here. Around our family, the door is usually open, the table's usually full, and somehow there's always room for one more.
This podcast is about making room for faith, for family, for laughter, for the messy and the meaningful. It's about inviting you into our family culture and letting you experience the joy and chaos of a big family right alongside us.
We're moms, daughters, sisters, and friends.
All in different seasons of life,
but we're all gathered around the same table.
So pull up a chair, take a deep breath, and stay a while, because love multiplies when we make room, and there is always one more seat at the table.
Hello, and welcome back to the Room for More podcast. I'm sure you were not expecting to hear my voice to start off the podcast today, but Noelle will be joining us shortly. But for now, my name is Faith, and I'm joined here by
Felicity
and Patricia.
And this episode today, we decided to focus it on the theme of Lent, just preparing our hearts for the Lenten season here. Today, the day we're recording is actually Ash Wednesday. You can kind of see, at least on a few of our foreheads, the ashes. And so we just wanted to kind of set aside some time to intentionally chat about how we are preparing our hearts this Lent for the Easter season. And how we are fully entering into the Passion of Christ. So let's just go ahead and get started. Do you guys have anything to catch up on, I guess, from the week before we hop on in?
Not really too much. Just there's been plenty of sickness going around. Obviously, still lingering for me. My voice isn't 100% still, but just seems like as soon as one person gets better, somebody else comes down with something. So
yes, exactly. Yeah, I'm glad that we're finally over the sickness, I think. But yeah, just normal busy life has been crazy lately. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
And you guys have been sick, Faith. I know.
Yes, I know. Something about the viruses going around this year is like next level.
Terrible.
Yeah, we had high fevers for a long, it was like 4 days, and now my husband has it, and it just slowly goes through the family. But it sounds like everybody at school or every family that I know of has had some version of this virus. So it's just making its way around.
I guess the good news is you didn't get it at the same time as Aaron.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
And Micah has stayed healthy so far. But it's also been very nice. We've had some beautiful weather lately. So that has been definitely a plus, trying to get outside and take in some vitamin C.
And vitamin D.
And vitamin D.
Absolutely.
Yes. All the vitamins. Okay. I guess we can just hop in unless you guys have anything else you wanted to share. Okay.
I don't think so. Let's hop in.
Awesome. So the first question that I have is, how has Lent changed for you as you've gotten older?
I will start.
Okay.
I will say that something that every year it seems like I have to refocus and remind myself that I can't overdo it. And I think that's honestly the biggest thing that's changed with time. Like when I was younger, I would try to give up way too many things. And every year that goes by, I'm like, I've got to focus in on something that specifically in an area that I really want to grow in my relationship with God, and then get rid of all the other things. Because if I have too many things I'm focusing on, then I feel like I already feel like I'm going to fail from the beginning. And then if I do end up failing, it's like, it feels terrible. You don't want to fail when you're giving something up for God. So my focus this year that has changed from the past years is just trying to focus in on one or two things this year.
Yeah, I would say for me, I can, since I'm in my 50s and I've been through, the baby period, and everywhere in between, to now having kids that are pretty self-sufficient at home. And so it just is a lot easier to be very intentional about things. And there's definitely a lot less of an excuse for me to not fully enter in. So, but what I'm focusing on is really intention. Like, why am I doing this? Because if I'm doing it just to lose a few pounds or, to be more disciplined or whatever, those things are good. But to me, I'm looking for something deeper and something that is going to connect me to the Lord and help me with his help to love others better. So that's really what I'm trying to lean into, just being intentional with prayer time. Also, a big one for me is going to be not scrolling my phone in the evenings. I'm making an effort to go plug it in, and I might check messages every once in a while, but other than that, no scrolling. I thought about giving it up completely, but quite honestly, I don't think I was ready for that, but I do know that I can like carve out specific time to offer for our Lord. So,
Absolutely.
I love that. For me, I feel like my perspective on Lent has really shifted as I've grown older. I think just growing up, it was more for me like a checking the box. Like I just need to check the box that I gave something up for Lent. Like it was always like the thing growing up, like you give up chocolate for Lent, which like I mean for a kid is maybe a little bit more tricky, but it was just, like, not there wasn't really the intention behind it. It was just
Mhm.
like, "Okay, I'm checking the box of, like, oh, I'm giving up pop for Lent, or I'm giving up candy for Lent, or X, Y, or Z." And now I feel like I think probably more in, like, my high school years, my college years, I started to, like, find a little bit more of the devotion behind, like, the heart of Lent and, like, the purpose behind why we are taking away some of, like, the worldly pleasures from ourselves, unite ourselves with the passion of Christ and to unite ourselves closer with um, just like eternity and try to kind of shed off some of the materialism and the worldly attachments that we have. And so I feel like that's been really what I've been reflecting on a lot this year is like um how can I purify my own heart and prepare my heart to, like, meet the Lord someday? Because we all are on this journey, and there are times where we, like, fail and fail and fail, and I think that I mean, we're all sinners, so we're gonna naturally fail, but it is kind of like you mentioned a little bit, Mom, about, like, building your internal discipline, like, I do feel like that is an important part to it because we are, like, called to live our lives differently as Christians, and we oftentimes have to make a harder choice, not always like the easiest choice. And I think conditioning yourself to be able to choose the harder thing sometimes is good, but I think there's a good balance, like we always say.
Yeah,
well,
I
and
think
yeah, I'm sorry. Maybe I should clarify on that, that I do think the discipline component is an important one. I just think that the motivation behind it, the driving force is what I'm trying to be more intentional about, that
Yeah.
is uniting those small sufferings to Christ's sufferings.
Mhm.
Yes. Yeah. So it's not like you're not making your Lenten sacrifice like to glorify yourself, but to glorify
Right,
God.
Yeah,
right, to
it
Yeah.
better
it
myself.
switches. I feel like when you're younger, it's more selfish, and then as
Yes.
you get older, you're more like, "Oh, like, I'm doing this to grow in relationship with God and to glorify
100.
God," and
Mhm,
that's the shift. Like
mhm.
mom was
Yes.
saying, like, the mindset change of, like, yeah, it's almost like instead of, like, giving up sweets to lose weight, maybe you're giving up sweets to help, like, glorify your body, the body that God has gifted
Yes.
you, and
Mhm.
treating your body the way it should be treated.
Yes,
Yeah,
and
as
I
a
think that's
gift.
exactly, like, what I'm trying to get at is, like, how can we unite our not only our suffering, but even just, like, our mindset with God's the way God sees us, you know?
Mhm.
And how can we love others, love ourselves, and love God more? I think that's really the heart behind Lent, and I think we could talk about this all day because it's a really deep kind of reflection to make, but I think just, like, having a deeper perspective on that, and I guess as I get older, hopefully that perspective will just get a little bit deeper. Anything else to share on how age has impacted your understanding of Lent? No?
I don't
Okay.
think so.
All right. So we kind of just briefly talked about like how Lent is a good time to kind of distance ourselves from some of those worldly attachments. So I guess the next question is what would be the hardest to live without for 40 days?
I feel like, that is also part of the last question of that I've come to the realization of is, like, I need to get rid of the things in my life that are distracting me from God, and those are the things that are the hardest to live without because those are the things that you're addicted to.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
so I would say personally for me, like, if I completely got rid of my phone, I don't know what I would do. Like, that sounds terrifying, honestly. That's so scary. So I think it's anything that you're, like, really attached to material wise for me.
Well, and the hard part with the phone is that it's become so entangled in just excuse me, in us building community because
Yeah.
if you don't have access to your phones, whether it's group text messages, I think of our family text message or, things like that, then it's like, I don't know, it's an important part of
Yeah.
our lives now. And it's sad because with that comes a whole host of other things.
Yeah.
So there's so much good there. And I mean, I think of all the pictures that I get of our grandkids and those kind of things they bring literal joy to my heart every day. And I think, what would I do without those if I didn't have my phone? You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like,
Exactly.
that's what makes it hard.
Yeah, you're not gonna just, like, chuck your phone out the window for 40 days because there's so
Mhm.
many things that are
Right.
so great and godly about your phone too that, like,
Mhm.
helps you connect with community through it. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I would second that. I think, getting rid of my phone for 40 days would be a shock to the system for sure. Not only, like, the communication component, but also I think, like, Mom, you'll relate with this, and I think you too, Felicity, but find my friends.
Uh-huh.
But, okay,
Oh, yeah.
here, so I have the solution. If we all
Okay.
just live together,
There we
we can
go.
chuck our phones out the window.
Yes. I
We
mean,
don't
I
have to
always
worry
lose
where
my
people
phone.
are.
I always lose my phone when I'm with everybody in the family because I'm not checking their location, and
Right.
I don't know. If you haven't caught on yet, listeners, we are kind of anxious people and always are when somebody's on the road somewhere, we're always, like, refreshing
Yeah.
or find my friends, watching where they're going, and it's honestly, if I had to give up something, that probably should be what I give up.
Find my friends.
But yes, because I do have an unhealthy attachment to it,
Mhm.
like, I
Me
just need
too.
to know where you are, like, I don't know,
Yeah.
I think
It's a
Did that
dependence on
yeah.
it.
I'm curious, and maybe we should have an episode on this, but do you think that got worse when you became a mom?
Yes, and not
Mm.
only, like I don't know, it's weird because now it's like I think I always had, like, an issue probably with it, with, like, checking Aaron's location and stuff, but, like, now, I, like, basically especially with Grace being my next door neighbor and
Mhm.
her, like, being out and about and stuff, I feel like she is one that I'm, like, always checking to make sure that she's gotten to where she needs to go
Mhm.
and that she because I, like, hear when she gets home at night, so that can be unhealthy, or John Paul came in, hung out last night, I had to make sure he got here
Mhm.
safe, and I check it, like, as he's on his way multiple
I
times,
checked it last night
and when he
too,
goes home yes, it's
knowing
just
he was
like
gonna be there.
yes, and it all comes out of a place of love, and I just wanna make sure that they're safe, but it also just creates so much anxiety for me
Yeah,
of,
it
like,
does.
thinking worst case scenario all the time, which
I've made a
is not
conscious
healthy.
effort to stop looking at it. I do
Yeah,
check it periodically, but I've made myself not check it as often, and I have had so much more peace.
that's awesome.
Just realizing that, I mean, ultimately, we know we can't control it by looking,
Yeah.
Yeah,
but
yeah,
also, if something happens, we will find out, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? And it'll be in due time, like, there's really nothing we can do,
that's
if
true.
something, God forbid, were to
Yeah.
happen. So, it
Let go of
kind
the
of
control.
is freeing to, like, tell
Yeah,
Yeah.
myself, "You don't need to look, like, it's gonna be fine."
Mhm.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
that's a good
absolutely.
point, mom. But yeah, I think we all have attachments to our phone, and I think that that's something that I'm realizing more and more. So, kind of because I knew that that was something I wanted to kind of try to distance myself from, I think that what we are doing well, I know that what we're doing is, after dinner time, we're gonna put phones away and just be able to have, like, some intimate family time, and then after Micah goes down, then Aaron and I can be a little bit more present together too because
Mhm.
it happens way too often that both of us are just, like, sitting here scrolling, and it's like, we don't get to see each other very much throughout the week, like, why would we waste our time? And then you put your phone down and you have no clue, like, you don't even retain anything you just looked at, so, like,
Mhm.
you're
Mhm.
literally just wasting time. So,
Exactly.
yeah, so I think that will be really great for us. I just listened to the Abiding Together podcast. They do, like, a whole,
Oh, I
like,
haven't listened
segment,
to that yet.
and one thing that really stood out to me is Sister Miriam was talking about how, the quickest what was it? The quickest way to holiness is something about time. Oh gosh, I'm gonna get it so wrong. I don't know. There were 2 different things that really stood out to me. One was, like, about how, you're, like, giving time to God is more
Mhm.
valuable than anything, and giving time to God giving God's time how do I put this into words? like, giving your time to others is you loving God.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
I think that is something that's, like, the intention, I think, behind putting phones down is how
Mhm.
can we give time to those that we love
Yeah.
and show God's love through setting aside that undivided time where there's no distraction.
Having, like, intentional quality time with others and with God. Yeah,
Yes. Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. Which is really hard to do. I would say, uninterrupted time with God is so much harder as a parent,
Mhm.
um, to do. So
I'm
if
even
you guys
thinking,
have
like,
tips, I would love to hear
no,
you.
I'm even thinking about just, like, I took Eden to Ash Wednesday mass this morning by myself, and, I mean, it's every mass, but, like, I just was literally like, "Well, it's." I feel like I leave and I'm like, "I didn't really get anything," and that
Mhm.
sucks, but it's also, like, I think during Lent, that can also be a time that we're called to our own vocation, like, where God
Mhm.
led us
Absolutely.
to, and so just kind of accepting that, like, this is where God wants me to be right now, even if
Mhm.
it's gonna not look pretty and even if it doesn't feel like the most intentional time with him, like, he sees me in that too, and he can be sitting right there beside me and experiencing it with me,
Mm.
so,
And
yeah.
something, Felicity, just to speak life into that situation too, in our couples group, something that they shared because I was having that same struggle of like at mass, it's so hard for me to really enter into the full mass and enter into like the
Mhm.
word and the homily and everything because you have this physical distraction sitting on your lap that's always needing your attention, needing you to grab a toy, grab a snack, all the
Mhm.
things. And they said that having your kid there at mass with you is like the most beautiful testament to those around you because it shows them that like it's doable. Like it's
Mhm.
doable to have kids and to bring them with you to mass and because I think nowadays like there's less families that go to mass because it is
Yeah,
hard
because
or
of
they
that,
just like
yeah.
don't bring their babies or they don't, because it's hard and you feel maybe embarrassed when your kid is crying and stuff, but, like, I honestly feel like there's no more beautiful noise than some, like, babbling kids
Mhm.
because I think that that just, like, shows that's, like, the future of God's kingdom, you know?
Yes,
That's the
absolutely.
next generation that's gonna be there
Yep.
praising
They
him.
say if the church isn't crying, it's dying,
Yes!
and it is true.
That is true. Yes, but I think be a testament to those people, those younger people around you, and show them, like, it's doable to have kids and to be happily
Show
have
up.
kids. Yeah, show up and do the
Exactly.
hard.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely. I love that. Should we share what we're doing for Lent this season? I know
yeah,
we
we could do
kind of
that.
started jumping into it, but if we want
Yeah.
to, yeah, jump into that a
Maybe
little
we
bit
just
more.
share, like, one thing that we're, like, most looking forward to trying out or something? I don't know. I just don't wanna, like, do a slew of things and make people think, like, that they're I don't want people to, like, feel like they need to compare what they're doing because I think it's also, like, something that I think we should probably speak to is depending on, like, what season of life you're in
Mhm.
and how much time you have for things, like, your Lent's gonna look a lot different, and that's okay. If you
Well,
Absolutely.
can really only dedicate your time to, like, one thing, then that's okay. If you
That's honestly kind
have
of what my
4
Lent will
things,
look
then
like,
great.
so I can be that person.
Okay,
and I
awesome,
will
go for it.
say that God calls everybody to different things.
Yeah,
So it's not gonna look the same for everybody.
Yeah,
100%.
absolutely. Yeah, everybody's in a different place in their faith journey too. But
Yeah.
yeah, I was gonna say kind of my focus this year is I wanted to try to remove social media in general because I think that that is a huge distraction to my like intentional quality time. And every time that I've done that in the past, it is so good for me. And I really should just like go all in. But I'm gonna do it for Lent again this year and really focus on that. And then my kind of like what I'm doing instead of doing that in the evenings, I'm gonna focus on just reading some like spiritual books because I realized I haven't really gotten into any spiritual reading and I really would love to do that. So, yeah, that's a big focus for me this year is kind of taking away something and replacing it with something else
Exactly.
in the time that I have as a mom after my baby's asleep. So, yeah.
Some water. So, something that I started, I think started doing this, I think, in college, and it's been something that I have really that's really been the heart of a lot of my Lents. So and it's very practical. So, what I do is I give up any secular media in the car. And right now it's really great because I have a pretty long drive to and from daycare pickup after school, which is like my decompress time. And so usually I pop on like Crime Junkie podcast, or I pop on my audiobook, or some other things that like maybe aren't as fulfilling. And so now what I'm going to be doing throughout Lent is listening to either Christian music or like Christian content of some sort, like podcasts and things like that. And I just think that really does help me to enter in a little bit deeper.
I love that. Again, using the time that you have already built in and replacing something to
Yeah.
grow closer with God. I love that.
I mentioned it before, but my plan is to not scroll in the evening. So after dinner, the same thing, plug my phone in. I do feel like it's necessary for me to check it because I have kids still at home. So I will allow myself that, but I'm not going to allow myself to scroll. But what I would like to do during that time, because I am really big on like fill it with something else. So I'm going to either be reading or, not that dad and I can't watch a show together or something, but I'm going to try to find something else to do with my hands because I'm so used to like having my phone in my hand.
Mhm.
So Felicity, I got this idea from you, but I want to teach myself how to hand crochet.
You
So,
should.
Nice.
and I figure, if you're making a blanket for someone, that is a way to show love, or
Mhm.
I could even
I
maybe try to help Sienna learn how to do it, or you know what I
yeah,
mean? It could be something that I could do alongside
like a charity
other
almsgiving
people.
along with it.
Yeah. Hmm.
I love
I love
that.
Yep.
that.
Yeah, I think you will love it. It's such a good, like I needed something to keep my hands busy too. And then, I mean, if you want to after Lent, then you could even like watch a show in the background or put a podcast on or whatever. And
Hmm.
then your brain is busy and your hands are busy after you learn it. It's a little bit hard the first couple times, but once you get it down, it's just like such a great pastime where you are
Hmm.
like creating something. Like, scrolling, nothing really comes out of it,
Yeah.
but this, you're like, "Oh, I just
Exactly.
made 2 hours." Like, sweet. It
And
feels
it's
really
so
good.
distracting. I mean, it just
Yeah.
pulls you
It
away from the people that are right
exactly.
there with you, and I'm so
Yep.
guilty. So,
And with that, you can still be having a conversation or whatever else on top of
yeah.
it. I love that.
Yeah,
So
that's a
yeah,
great idea. The one
also,
thing
oh,
that
I'm sorry.
I'm no, what were you gonna say?
No, no. I was just gonna say the other thing I'm gonna do is, try to hit an extra mass during the week.
That's a
So,
I
great
love
idea.
that.
I was just gonna say something I'm excited about this year is like kind of starting our own family tradition of like doing a family like Lenten
mhm,
sacrifice. Just because I feel like that I remember growing up times that we did that, and I think that was a good way to just unite our Lenten sacrifices and a sense of community with it too.
mhm.
I love that.
Yeah.
Do you know what you're
Um,
doing for that?
Yeah, that's where we're gonna, put phones up, after
Mm,
dinner, and then Aaron and I also discussed, just diving into the Word a little bit more
mhm,
in the evenings. Tonight, he had to go to bed early because he wasn't feeling great, so we already messed up on the first day of Lent, but, that is our intention is to start reading, just, like, even if it's a couple of verses, just
mhm.
a little bit out of the Bible.
I love that.
We're doing something similar in terms of, the Hallow app. We're doing the
Oh, yeah.
Pray
Uh-huh.
40
Yeah.
as a
Nice.
family.
That's awesome. What
We're
is
gonna
the
do
Pray
that as well
40?
too this year. That's really I've done that in the past too, and it's really
Mm,
great.
really is.
What is the Pray 40? Is it different every day?
Yeah, it's like a well, last year they did like a storyline along with it. So like every day they'd share a little bit about like somebody's testimony, basically a story, and then they'd like add to it with like virtues and things to work on in your life.
Nice.
So the one from today, Mom, did you listen to it already?
Mhm,
I'm trying to think what the main, like, virtue was in it. Humility, that's what it was. So I
mhm.
don't know if the whole, like, Lenten season's gonna be focused on that for sure, but it was a really great episode today.
I think that the humility thing might have tied in, and I don't know, but if I had to guess, might have just tied into the whole ashes thing,
Mhm.
how it's a sign of
Yeah.
humility to walk around with ashes on your forehead, and just the fact that you are going to return to dust, and
Mhm.
just the humble thought of that.
Absolutely.
We were made of dust, and really that's
Yeah.
all we will be.
Yeah.
Mm.
But
So,
Sister Miriam's on that too, Faith.
Okay,
mhm.
cool. Yeah, I should definitely look into that. Maybe that's more doable if it's something you can kind of do a little bit more on the go too.
You could
Yeah.
do that on your drive to
Yeah,
pick
I was
up.
gonna say that.
Yeah.
It's, like, probably, like, 10 or 15 minutes. They're really short.
Mhm.
Okay, cool. That would totally be doable. I
Mhm.
like that idea. I always love to add in something with regard to prayer too. I just
Mhm.
Mhm.
think that's really powerful.
Yeah.
So, okay, the next question. Okay, is God easier or harder to hear when things get quiet?
Mhm.
I think easier for
Yeah,
me
I guess I
personally.
would say easier too, which is the point, I feel like, of removing all the distractions so that you can hear him.
Yeah, I think this just speaks to the amount of like noise that our bodies are conditioned for. And that's not even, like, always physical noise, it's, like, mental noise and, um, just distraction type of noise and just filling every moment, which I know I'm so guilty of. Yeah, I don't really sit in silence besides when I'm at church. So,
Mhm.
Mhm.
and in adoration, which is I always just really especially now as a mom, when you really don't get any silence. Like, there are moments where you get where I don't know, I guess adoration just, like, sits a little bit differently if I ever get to go just, like, by myself.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I think that is definitely where you can hear God speaking, but you have to kind of break through the uncomfortable silence part in order to hear and feel God's voice.
Yeah, I feel like that is specifically what's been hard about, like, new motherhood too, is, like, finding that space for quiet or, like, long enough that you get to that point where it's like, "Yay, I
Mhm.
have, like, 2 minutes," and then all of a sudden you're distracted, and it's like yeah, it definitely is a new challenge, and yeah, I don't know, mom, what did that look like for you? Like, from starting first having your first baby to, like, having multiple kids and watching your kids grow, did you ever, like, find a good way to connect with God and, like, find those quiet moments away with just you and him?
I feel like that was a huge challenge for me, and there was times that I would do the thing where you wake up early or whatever. The
Mhm.
one thing I do remember fairly consistently was not being able to sleep very well at night, and so those were opportunities for me to get my Bible out, and some of them I capitalized on, and that was very fruitful time alone with the Lord. Other times I would start cleaning or do something like that, but the times that I did use it for that was a huge blessing. I even thought some of those times I was like, "Is he waking me up for this purpose?" Like, to have that one-on-one time.
Mhm.
But also, I think it's important to remember when you are a mom that God comes to you through your children. Like,
Yeah,
that is the state of life that you're in, and he wants you to embrace that fully, whatever that looks like, you know? And I'm not saying that that's easy, but that's where he calls you to holiness, is
absolutely.
through all of those things, whether it's the dishes, whatever it is. And I remember at times, like, I don't know if you remember this, but there was a time where I would had like little signs in the laundry room that said like clothe the naked, in the kitchen, feed the hungry, stuff like that. And those were reminders to me that what I was doing had purpose, you
I
know,
love
and
that.
because it's so easy to just like walk through your day, and do all the things for everybody and not really offer it as a gift to the Lord, you know?
Yeah.
So, and most of the time I didn't do a great job about that, but there were times that I feel like, I, made some progress, but
Absolutely.
it's really difficult. And I think you really, really need to give yourself grace. So,
Wow, I don't know, something about what you just shared there with, like, relating it to the Beatitudes really struck me. I
Me
just
too.
never yeah, that's so beautiful. I feel like that really gives me a whole new perspective too, because just by clothing the naked is your child that you are literally putting clothes
or
on.
your husband when you're doing the laundry.
Yes, and feeding the hungry, like, all of those do relate to the season of life, so that's beautiful. Thanks for sharing that, Mom.
That really is beautiful, and that makes me wanna, like, put that stuff around my house too, because that is such a great reminder to just, like, call you closer to the Lord in those things when you're, like
Mhm,
just feel like you have no purpose anymore, like, you've lost who you
mhm,
are, but you really haven't lost your identity in God, and that's such an
mhm.
amazing and beautiful reminder of that. I love
Yeah.
that.
That's a great idea.
It
Yeah.
wasn't anything that I came up with. I remember reading it at some
Mhm.
point, and then implementing it for a while until I mean, there comes a time when you start looking past the little note that you put up for yourself and you just don't even see
Mhm.
it anymore. And so it worked for a time, but then went by the wayside, like most things.
Yeah.
I usually do. Okay, the next one is kind of about body image and Lent. So this question is, how can women misinterpret sacrifice as self-punishment?
That's a good question. Like, is
Okay,
it asking about, like, mortification? If mortification
Yeah,
meaning
like
that
how
that is,
can
like,
people
self-punishment and that that's
yeah,
good?
like people can mistake I think mistake like the fasting as a self-punishment instead of kind of like we talked about, instead of uniting it with God, more focusing on self.
I was even gonna say, like, just today, Ash Wednesday, not having meat and fasting between meals, which, I mean, the last 2 years I didn't have to because I was pregnant and breastfeeding, and so it was like, okay. And now, like, I wanted to be like, "I don't feel like this is great for me, like, my body needs this," and it's so easy to be like, "This is just terrible for me." But I think also, like, I think in that moment, uniting it more to God versus like me, like this is not good for me. Like I don't like this. It makes me uncomfortable. But like focusing more then on like, but I'm really doing this all for God. It's not about my body right now. Like I'm sacrificing this for God, which I know it's very different for like you, Faith, who are breastfeeding right now. It looks very different. But
Mhm.
that's just kind of like the realization that came to me.
Well, somebody put it really beautifully too when they said, I think it was Father in his homily this weekend said that um, when you get that hunger or that need for food, that and this would go for anything obviously that you give up, but instead of filling that hunger right away with food, to try to satisfy it by going to the Lord, either in
Mhm.
prayer or in scripture or whatever avenue that you take. But I just thought that was beautiful that sometimes that longing that we're having, even though we think it might be hunger, could be a hunger for something deeper.
I love that.
Totally. Yeah, that's a great reflection. Yeah, that reminds me of, like, I guess, like, growing up, whenever we would, like, be hungry, it's like you're supposed to ask yourself, like, "Well, am I thirsty first?" Because a lot of times you're trying to replace thirst with, like,
Mhm.
especially as kids, as you're trying to, like, understand your
Mhm.
body, and so that's actually such a great perspective that maybe it's not food at all that we're actually craving the Lord
I
and time
also had
with
that
Him.
realization today with Eden, the same thing with, like, she can be throwing a huge tantrum, even though we just ate a huge meal, and I say the word snack, and she's like, that helps automatically, and it just reminded me of the same thing of, like, growing up, like, you got emotional and you had a snack, or you got emotional and you watched a TV show or whatever, and then I'm like, that's literally as adults when we're, like, struggling with anything, we're like, "I
Good
need to
point.
eat," or, "I need, like, a screen," like, you're looking for
Yeah,
some, like, distraction, and I was
mhm,
like, that's exactly what you just said, mom, like, in those moments, instead of being like, "Where is the comfort right now?" Like, look to God
Mhm.
for that comfort first,
Mhm.
like, obviously,
Mhm.
your body does need nourishment, but is that what you always need in that moment? Maybe you
Mhm.
just need God, maybe you need the comfort of Him.
And sometimes that's what fasting can look like, even if it's not like fasting, like, for instance, for faith, where you need to make sure that you're getting enough calories to be able to nourish your
Mhm.
baby. But maybe your fasting looks like just waiting a few minutes, like putting off that desire for a while can be fasting. It doesn't have to be
Mhm.
all or none, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
100%. Yeah, fasting doesn't necessarily have to be 2 small meals and 1 large meal. Like, yes, that is what fasting is on Ash Wednesday and Good Friday, but for other people, like breastfeeding or pregnant mothers, you can also offer different sacrifices throughout
Mhm.
your day, kind of in replacement of that. I don't know, I think even if you give up, like, having creamer in your coffee, like, that can be a big
Mhm. A
thing
little fat
sometimes,
snack.
you know?
Yeah, removing
So things
something.
yes, just like a replacement, kinda like you were saying, Felicity. If we take something out, how can we replace it with something better or something to glorify God? But I guess coming back to the question of how can women misinterpret sacrifice as self-punishment? I think sometimes we mistake that, like, we have to put our bodies through, like, hard. That makes sense? Like, I feel like we don't always have to choose the hardest thing to be united with God, and I think we have kinda
Mhm.
talked about that, like, in our current stage, Felicity, of motherhood, like, our hard is being a mom and practicing
Mhm.
patience and being fully present with our kids. And we don't have to throw a bunch of other things on top of us that are not appropriate for our current life stage. Like,
Mhm.
it would not be appropriate for me to say, okay, I'm going to go and do a holy hour every day, or I'm going to go
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
daily mass on top of like my full time job and parenting and everything. Like, that would not be appropriate because it would be taking time away from my vocation. So I
Yeah.
think that sometimes if we view it as a checklist, we are going to completely miss the point. And if
Mhm.
we I think that's where the like punishment comes in is like, do I just take out everything that I enjoy because it's Lent? No. That's not what God's asking you to do, and that's completely defeats the purpose. I
Yeah.
Well,
think
and what fruit will come from a mother that has, like, depleted herself to such a capacity that she is either physically, emotionally, spiritually, whatever, in pain?
uh-huh.
How much fruit do you have from that to give? And I think that's the
Yeah.
question always to ask, especially as a mom. Like, if I am giving up so many things that then I am showing up crabby for my children because of it, then maybe I need to look at that and reevaluate whether that is something that is bringing life or not. Because
Yeah.
Mhm.
I do think that God only calls us to things that are gonna bring life and love, and it's pretty hard to be that way if you're making yourself wake up an hour earlier to do a holy hour or whatever, or wake up in the middle of the night, not get adequate rest, maybe not get adequate food because you're trying to, have all these extreme things where God calls us to, walk with him in our vocation first
Yeah.
Mhm.
and, just not, I don't know, deplete ourselves to such a degree that we have nothing left to give.
Exactly. He's able to meet us exactly where we're at, and
Yeah.
we can meet him there. And yes, we can like refine our days and the time that we do give to him to be more intentional and intimate. But that doesn't mean completely uprooting our lifestyle.
In
Mhm.
your vocation that he called you to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
You guys have anything else to add with that? I guess more specific to like body image and kind of how sometimes Lent can, I think for women, just sometimes we can be like, oh, I'm going to start this intense workout routine, or I'm going to start this intense diet, or I'm going to cut out something insane. Like, I guess, how do we avoid attaching our Lent sacrifices to our bodies?
Yeah, I think that's so hard for women. I feel like so many women between New Year's resolutions and
Yeah, me
Yes.
too.
Lent, it's like almost every woman has something connected to their body that they wanna change. Honestly, like, thinking about that, that's really sad because it's also like, this is the gift that God gave us is our bodies. Like I was saying earlier, like, if you're gonna wanna, do something that has to do with your body, find a way to make it to be glorifying God. But it
Mhm.
is so hard as women to not want to, like, constantly, like, upkeep your body and make yourself look good and feel good. I don't know, I
Mhm.
think it's all so connected.
I think it's so important too that we not place certain expectations on people either, because I think some of the fasting and those sort of things can be triggering for
Mm,
people that have like unhealthy attachments or detachments from food. And so we really have to be careful to not judge or whatever because we don't know, you know,
yeah,
kind of what everybody's struggle is. So for
absolutely.
some people, it's really not healthy to fast, so
Mhm.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I don't know. I would say if it's triggering to you and not, again, bringing fruit, then, you probably need to look at what you're doing if it's too much or,
Yeah,
Totally. I feel like every year at Ash Wednesday Mass, the reading or the gospel stands out to me because it's that gospel about how, like, let us fast, but like nobody knows about it.
Mhm,
And I think growing up in a Catholic school, like everybody was fasting together. Everybody was eating fish for lunch together. Everybody was going to a fish fry in the evening. Like it was so ingrained into our culture and our community, which is beautiful, which is awesome. But that's not really the reality, at least in my stage of life right now. I'm surrounded by a lot of people that don't practice those same things. And I think that that just gives me a deeper reflection every time I hear that gospel because I'm like, yeah, that's right. Like, we're not doing this to glorify ourselves and to show people like, "Oh, look at the ashes on my forehead, like I'm a servant of God." Like we can be a servant of God every other day without people even knowing it, but they should see it through the kindness of like our heart, and
Mhm.
we should share God with them, but out of humility. I think kind of like you guys were saying with your
Mhm.
reflections. So
Yeah, I
I don't
love
know, I
that.
just felt called to speak on that a little bit. Okay, what needs to die in me this Lent?
That's an intense question.
Mhm.
Might need to think on that. Okay, I know what mine is. I
Go ahead.
think that negativity needs to die in me this Lent. I think I just have, especially in like my day to day, just some things out of my control, I can just fixate on a little bit and become really negative about. And so I am really working to be more intentional with staying positive in my thoughts and in my conversations.
That's awesome. I was gonna say, I think for myself, what I would love to die in me this Lent would be just like my fear and anxiety that has seemed to just like get worse with time. I've just really been struggling with anxiety in general about, I mean, literally anything, work, relationships, my husband, my daughter, my health, like literally everything is like an anxiety. And I feel like I'm just on edge all the time. So, yeah, I would love to be able to connect with God through that and just allow Him to be with me through that and hand that over to Him so that I can live a peaceful life and just continue to go about my life with Him by my side.
Beautiful. For me, I'm going to say selfishness. It's become easier for me to just be really comfortable. And I've got so much more time than I've ever had. So it's easy for me to use that selfishly. And so I don't know if it's selfishness or just giving more of my time. So whatever that is, I guess both of them boil down to selfishness. So that's what I am trying to root out. But it's a struggle.
Those are all
It is
great
so
ones.
hard, and I don't know that 40 days is enough for these really tough
Exactly.
things that we've had a lifetime of building up
Hmm.
in ourselves, but
Hmm.
Yeah.
yeah, it's a great start.
Yes. Well, we're only striving. We're not going to be
Mhm.
Mhm,
perfect.
That's right.
mhm.
Okay, the next question, and I think this will be our last question, just kind of in preparation for what's to come. So, what kind of woman do I want to be by Easter?
Gosh. Are we hoping for a full
I
transformation?
know, that's
Because
what
I
I
don't know if that is really
Well, if we can get these pieces of us to die.
right? I know, that's exactly what I was gonna go into, is exactly what I just said, I want to die in myself. I would I would love to just have more peace by Easter. Just be more like confident in God and allow Him to lead and allow myself to just rest and yeah, relax in Him.
I love that, Felicity. I
do
might
too.
steal that a little bit. I think I really have a hard time, I think specifically in this season of rest, like allowing myself to be restful in general at home. Like I'm always filling my time with something to do, something
Mhm.
like a parenting thing or thing for my job or just something to fill my time. And I think I really want to be able to rest and rest in Jesus, yes, but also like be okay with like just having uninterrupted time with my family and
Mhm.
not needing to grab my phone and not needing to scroll and not needing to feel the silence. So I think by the end of Lent, I hope to be like a woman of patience and compassion and that I can focus on more positives, but also be more intentional in my interactions with
Mhm.
others.
Well, you guys have pretty much stolen all the good stuff. I'm
Sorry,
gonna
mom.
piggyback on that because I think peace is what we're all yearning for, and
Mhm.
so just being, again, like, present and not scrolling, and I think that a lot of peace will come from that, just not scrolling as often, and for me, just I realized tonight as I had plugged in my phone and it was in my bedroom and I was sitting in the living room and dad and I were both reading a book. It was completely quiet, and I was like, "This is what peace is." Like, this is ultimate peace, and obviously, it's gonna look different at different times of the day, but if I could just maintain that, like, not necessarily that particular thing or whatever, space and time, but just that mentality, it would be amazing.
I love that.
Awesome. Well, now we can move on to our weekly segments. So, first of all, our favorite things. You guys know your favorite things for
I
this
know what
week?
mine is because I spent all
Okay.
day today doing it.
Oh, yay. I
I
can't wait to
got a
hear it.
new spice organization for the
Oh,
side of my
yeah.
refrigerator. So I went through all of my spices. It's embarrassing to say, but I had several duplicates. Some spices dating back to like 2016. So
Ooh,
I
that was
went
before I
through and I
graduated
got
high
rid of
school.
expired ones. So yeah, it was an undertaking, but it's going to simplify my life and it will bring peace because I'm frantically searching in cabinets for spices when I'm
Mhm.
cooking and I won't have to do that. And I also won't have to buy duplicates. So,
It's awesome.
Okay, I think my favorite thing of the week is this new book that Owen had actually gotten me like a month back that I just started that is I think it's called What a Friend We Have in Jesus. And yeah, I'm only a couple chapters in, but it just basically talks about like friendships in general, but all surrounding the friendship that we have with Jesus and how
ooh.
he is always with us through our everyday. And it just goes into talking about like as often as you reach out to a friend, like you can be connecting with Jesus like that exact same way. And it takes, I think what really struck me so far is that the same way that you build a friendship, you have to go through like the uncomfortable and you have to keep scheduling things to meet up and like put effort in constantly and continuously if you want to have a relationship build. And it's the same thing with Jesus. And I was like, that's why is that crazy to me? Like to hear that, I was like, that's crazy. But I'm like,
Mhm.
that I just needed to hear that to be like, yeah, I that's why it's so important to have that intentional time set aside for him. That's like,
Mhm.
this is our time right now to connect, just like you would with a new friend or, you know. So I think that, yeah, that's my special thing of the week that I'm excited to kind of continue to dive into.
I love that,
That
Felicity. I'm
sounds really
gonna
intriguing.
I'm gonna grab mine really quick. Okay, my favorite thing this week. So a couple of friends and I at church got these every sacred Sunday books. We've had them for the last few years. But one of my friends from church gave me also this little pouch on it that holds like my markers and stuff.
Wow.
So yeah,
Oh.
it's really awesome. I love it because then I don't have to always remember to grab like a pen. But I
Mhm.
just got these new pens this week that also a friend from church shared. And they're different colors, but they're like deep colors that kind of like
Mm.
go along with different like feast days and things like that.
Oh,
And so
cool.
yeah. So there's like deep purple, deep red, there's blue and yeah, all these really deep colors that I'm excited to use throughout Lent too. Like I feel like this one is gonna be my go-to this Lent, this like deep red
Very
Uh-huh.
cool.
I love
color.
that.
Yeah, so that's definitely my favorite thing this week.
What a neat gift.
Yeah, that is really cool.
So do you
Did sh
have like an elastic band on there that holds that
Yeah,
all
so it
together?
like, I forgot where she said she got it from.
Yeah, I was gonna say, did she make it? Because that's really
No, she
unique.
bought it somewhere, but it has a on it, it says, "Jesus, I surrender myself to you, take care of everything."
Oh, wow.
Oh, I
That
love
is really
that.
cool.
Yeah, gosh, I
Felicity, you
gotta
need that.
remember.
Ooh.
I have to remember where she got it from. I'll have to ask her, and then maybe we'll link it or something. So, yeah.
I love that. I
Alright.
might have to, like, print that verse out and hang it up around my house somewhere.
Oh,
That's
yeah,
There is a
really
I
cool.
novena
it's a
for that.
novena,
It's a
yeah, a
novena.
surrender.
Yes, that's why I was like, "Why is that so familiar?"
Mhm.
Alright,
Yep,
well, maybe I need to challenge myself to do that novena every day.
yeah,
Mhm.
Just
I think
continue it.
honestly. Or you could just add that little, like, that prayer into your night prayers every
Yeah.
night and
Yeah, true.
or in the
I love
morning.
that.
That's something that I feel like I should
That's
be saying
beautiful.
throughout the day to recenter
Uh-huh.
myself.
Multiple
"Take care of
times.
everything,
Yeah.
Jesus. You got it."
Take care of everything.
it is really helpful to have those little phrases that you can say while you're
Mhm.
doing other things.
Mhm.
Absolutely. I
Yeah.
love that.
Yeah. Okay, last segment is what are we making room for this week? I know mine. I'll go first since you guys are
Yeah.
thinking. This week, I'm making room for spontaneity. I last minute booked this trip to New York with some of the family. And so I am really looking forward to that. And yeah, it's like very spontaneous for this planner girl over here. So I think I'm just making room for that. And I think, yeah, that just gives me life and excitement right now.
I
In
love
the
that.
I feel like in February, I always need like something to look forward
Mhm.
to. So that's what it is.
I'm making room for organization. I think with it kind of spring is kind of coming, and Lent for me is a good time to kind of go through some cabinets, closets, stuff like that. So that's what I'm making room for, obviously with the spices.
I am making room for my health this week. I finally have a doctor's appointment tomorrow that I'm looking forward to, just hopefully moving in the right direction to figuring some things out. And yeah, I think hopefully that will lessen my anxiety a little bit. So,
Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for tuning in with us this week. We hope you have a very blessed Lent. We hope that this podcast can offer you some insight as you go through your own Lenten devotion. And we will see you next week. Bye.
Bye-bye.
That was today's conversation, and now it's your turn.
Who can you make room for this week?
Who might need an invitation, a listening ear, or a seat at your table?
it doesn't have to be perfect, just open.
We'll be back next time, gathered again with stories, faith, and family. Until then,
Pull up a chair and follow us on Instagram at Room for More Podcast. There is always one more seat at the table.